Peach Pundit, the podcast, is a conversation filled with the personal opinions of the people who are participating. Any view or opinion expressed belongs only to the person who expressed it and not with anyone with whom that person is professionally affiliated.
Hey folks, welcome to the first Peach Pundit, the podcast of 2025. I am Jason Pye, joined by Scot Turner and Buzz Brockway. Guys, it's good to see you both in this very new year. And my understanding is you guys are about to get some snow, which we got over the weekend here in the Richmond area. We got a couple inches here in Chesterfield County. DC got about a half foot. We're supposed to get more tomorrow and Saturday. But my understanding is you guys are going to get some snow. What's the forecast?
It's bad. It's perfect Bernie's Mountain Dog weather. Yeah, like in my area, they're predicting 6 to 8 inches starting at about 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
So y'all remember Ken Cook, the longtime weatherman at Fox 5? I was explaining to my daughter. Ken, of course, retired, but he's got a Facebook page, which I just recently discovered. He still opines about the weather, and I was explaining to my daughter today that Ken Cook was always the guy when you were a kid who ruined everything because he came on the night before the storm hit and said the models have changed. We're not going to get as much as everybody else thinks, and he was always right. And so he did that again. So he's thinking Atlanta's. Most of us in Metro are going to get just ice and a dusting, and maybe 1 to 3 up in the mountains. So we'll see who's right. But Ken Cook is never wrong. So.
Well, like I said, we're supposed to get some more tomorrow. I think late tomorrow night and Saturday morning. But I'm guessing it's probably the same system. But look, we got a pretty entertaining podcast for the first one of the year. But before we get into all the topics for this week, well, we got to pay some bills.
Americans for Prosperity are a great organization that you can go and learn more about fighting for conservative causes. They're really passionate about reigniting the American dream. They believe that freedom and opportunity are the keys to unleashing prosperity for all. They are a community of millions of concerned citizens advocating for solutions based on proven principles to tackle the country's most critical challenges, and they're not afraid to roll up their sleeves and do the work right here in Georgia. You can join them or learn more about them at americansforprosperity.org. Thank you to Americans for Prosperity for being a partner-level Patreon. If you too would like to be a Patreon, you can head on over to patreon.com/peachpundit and sign up for one of our tiers today.
Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta, GRRA, is an all-volunteer, tax-deductible charitable organization. They are dedicated to providing veterinary care, comprehensive evaluation, and foster and adoptive homes to golden and Labrador retrievers who are abandoned, mistreated, neglected, or left in shelters throughout Georgia. We encourage you to visit their website grra.com and help connect people and dogs that need each other in their lives. You truly can make this world a better place by helping find homes of gold for these golden-hearted pups.
I just got to say, the ads are so much better than us having to do them.
Well, this is the deal, right? So anytime one of us comes into our studio now, those ads are going to be preloaded into our media library, and you can just click the button, and that's it, right? So if one of us, like if I'm not here, you can now just play them, and they're automatically part of the recording.
Yeah, I like that. That's really cool. Scott, you have gone through the meticulous task of going back and listening to our first episode from last year, where we all made predictions for 2024. I could think of a couple I made that I know wrong.
Oh yeah, you want to start then? What was your prediction that you made that was wrong?
I said Trump would be convicted. I think I said the Florida case. He'd be convicted in one of the cases. I said the New York one was the least likely one.
And that was the only one.
That was the only one. And
Yeah.
I thought the documents case down in Florida was the strongest one, and the one I thought he was most likely. I think I said I wasn't sure. I can't remember what I said about the Fulton County case.
This is what your prediction was, that Trump would be convicted in either Fulton County or the documents case.
It was wrong. I also said Biden would get reelected, and obviously that was wrong.
You did say that Biden would win. But
those are the two
so
I
many
remember.
things happen. This is the problem with wildly speculating and predictions is who could have known in January of 2024 that Joe Biden wouldn't even be the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, I'll just go on record and say I screwed that up. So what other predictions did I make?
You said that we would have a government shutdown in 2024.
Came real close.
Yes.
You said that the Republican Party would lose the House in 2024.
Came real close.
And you said that Trump would not be allowed on the ballot in Maine.
Didn't come close at all.
You made 5 predictions. Those were your 5.
I was pretty close on 2 of those. Like the House one, Waltz is going to resign on January 20th, so that's 218. And then Stefanik, she might get confirmed really early too, so they might go down to 217 on or around Inauguration Day. So it's going to be 217, 215. And then you had, I'm glad she's okay, but you had Virginia Fox and her nasty spell during the Friday session, the first day of session. They had sine-died for the 118th Congress, and then they came in for the 119th Congress. And apparently, I don't know what happened, but Virginia Fox, who's from North Carolina, formerly chair of the Ed in the Workforce, she fell. She's okay. Like I said, she's okay. I'm glad she is. But, she's in her 80s, man. I mean, so there's some pretty old, Congress is full of old people. That's no surprise there.
She apparently fell down the stairs.
Those staircases are not forgiving.
No, they are not. Not. That is not. Those are very cold and hard marble.
Yeah.
So we've proven we've discussed where I was wrong. So who's next?
But to dive in a little bit further, I mean, none of us saw Fani Willis's problems develop over 2024, right? We had mixed opinions between the 3 of us about the legitimacy of that case and whether or not there would be convictions. At this point last year, there had been some plea bargains, and it looked like some momentum was building. But really, what has caused there not to be any movement whatsoever is Fani Willis, her Nathan Wade situation, and now you have multiple elected high-ranking Republicans who are elected. Chris Carr and Brian Kemp. And even Burke Jones, I think at this point, has said that she should recuse herself, or just that the state Supreme Court should uphold this recent appellate court decision that she be removed from the case. And all of that was based upon this relationship that she had with Nathan Wade, and we didn't have any idea that was going on.
Yeah.
So there was no way for us to know that was going to be a development. And also, we didn't know that Joe Biden wasn't going to be the nominee because the media had been telling us that he was sharp as a tack, quote unquote. And now they're all like, we can't believe we were snookered. You were part of the snookering of America.
I don't think any of us thought he was sharp as a tack. I don't know that but yes, I don't know that none of us predicted, none of us predicted he would not be the nominee.
Dude is 82 years old. I mean, it's,
right.
There's some, I'll give my buddy Adam over at the Independence Center some credit here, because he had always said Biden wouldn't be the nominee. He had been saying that for 2 years, and you come down to summer, we go through June, go through most of the summer, and he's still the nominee or the presumptive nominee, and then he has that bad debate performance. People see him out in public unscripted, where he couldn't string together a sentence without and seem coherent. The funny thing about it is, even just in his recent statements, I mean, he says he could have beaten Trump. He's like, I've seen polling that. It's like, dude, I don't know. I mean, like,
not after that.
No, not after that debate performance. That was hard to spend.
Yes.
No, it couldn't be spun.
And we were pretty close on the government shutdown. Like, God, we were real close. Real close.
Maybe they heard you and thought, "Oh crap, we need to get our stuff together."
We don't want Jason Pye to be right.
Right. And we can't have Pye be right
if
about
that's
anything.
what motivated him, that's fine with me.
We will never hear the end of it. All right, Buzz, you're up. You ready?
I'm ready.
Buzz's first prediction was that Trump would lose Georgia.
Yeah. Well, I was off by a country mile on that.
Yeah, by quite significantly. Second prediction for Buzz. Congratulations, Buzz. You're the first one to get one right. You said the promised scholarships would pass the legislature.
Oh, right on. That was a hopeful, wishful thinking at the time, but I'm glad I was right on that.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that you were right about that, because it means that tens of thousands of students are now going to have an opportunity to attend a private school if their parents take advantage of that situation.
Yep.
So this one was more generic, and I didn't record the post roll, so I have no idea who you were talking about. So maybe now you can spill the beans. You said a surprise major candidate or 2026 gubernatorial candidate is going to be making a splash, but you said, I can't name them. And you said, I don't want to get in trouble. Who are you talking about?
I was talking about Marty Kemp, but I was wrong about that.
Yeah.
Big time. So
that was a major rumor in 2024, though. We kept hearing that for months and months and months, that Marty was going to run for governor.
Right. I mean, I had people, people who were pretty well connected reaching out and saying, are you hearing this?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I
Every
am,
lobbyist at the Capitol was asking us about that. Yeah. And I kept saying, the only people who are asking me this are you guys. That's.
I never asked her. I didn't
ask her, but I did ask Brian Kemp. No, I didn't either. I asked one of my lobbyists to ask Brian Kemp, and his reaction was, "You should ask Marty," which wasn't very inspiring, right? But then, so he goes, "Okay," and so he asked Marty, and Marty said, "Well, we do still have the yard signs."
Her campaign could just be the name and off she goes.
You use the same logo, the same exact signs, because it doesn't say Brian anywhere on it.
It worked for Eddie Murphy and the Distinguished Gentleman.
Exactly.
Jeff Johnson, the name you know.
Exactly.
That's exactly right. And you also predicted that Georgia Tech basketball would make the NCAA tournament in 2024.
No, it's wrong on that one.
So you got 1 out of 4. Congratulations.
Hey, look at Georgia beat Kentucky the other night in basketball. So,
now you're a basketball school?
No.
That was quite a scene.
Quote,
I mean, that was quite a scene. That the crowd was rocking.
Yeah.
The Stegosaurus was packed.
To quote Reagan, gross. Anyway, I'll shut up now.
All right. So you ready to beat me up? Here goes. My first prediction was that Trump would blame Raffensperger for his loss in Georgia.
Ooh.
Yeah. So they're still not friends, Raffensperger and Trump. But obviously, Trump winning handily here in Georgia and the changing dynamics made that an incorrect prediction. My second one, I'm going to claim victory on this one. Colton Moore would not be allowed to return to the Senate Republican caucus.
Yep.
And
has he tried?
I don't know that he's tried. I think he's gotten a lot of mileage out of not being in it by saying that he is the only non-rhino in the legislature.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can claim victory over it just by default.
Yeah, but my third one was an easy layup, and it was that Senator Josh McLaurin would continue to tout his superior intellect and legal expertise. It was a tongue-in-cheek slap at Senator McLaurin, which, any conversation that Senator McLaurin has, you make sure that he has superior intellect and legal expertise. So, and my last one is technically false. It was technically incorrect. Trump will be acquitted in Fulton County. He was not acquitted, but it's looking good for the president.
The case died of natural causes.
The case is dying currently, at best on life support, if not already dead. But it's mostly dead, if not completely dead. And until it's completely dead, we don't know what's going to happen.
Is it mostly dead? I mean, are we talking like Princess Bride, mostly dead?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes. It's mostly dead. Absolutely. So those were our predictions for last year. I got 1 out of 4. Buzz got 1 out of 4, and Pye was 0 for 5. So
it's a good thing we're not hitting for the Braves. That's all I'll say.
We are not Miss Cleo here. Don't be dialing our 976 number and giving us money to tell you what's going to happen in your life.
Well, it was 1-900, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Not all 900 numbers were,
Yeah. In the 90s, I'm pretty sure it was 900. So
do those things still exist, by the way?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea. I don't know why anybody would ever just call someone.
I bet we could create a personalized GPT and Chat GPT that would emulate Miss Cleo.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I bet we could.
Well,
and that would be fun.
You know, all the psychics predicted that Kamala Harris would win.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Mike Flynn has, General Michael Flynn has joined forces with them, because now there's a group of them who are saying, well, we weren't wrong. Okay. There's still time. She will be restored to the White. She will be in the White House.
So psychics are now part of the stolen election crowd. That's what you're telling. I got you.
Oh no,
Yeah.
there's some pretty hilarious videos of like the televangelist crowd, like the self-described prophets who were saying Trump was going to win in 2020, and that despite the fact that he lost, God is going to ensure that he gets put in the White House. That stuff was hilarious because
and now the psychics are doing the same, and instead of God, it's the universe.
Well, hang on a second.
So
are they technically wrong, the evangelists? Because he's about to be sworn in on the 20th.
Well, there's some who just changed the date. They use a little whiteout and oh yeah. What I meant was, what happened was
God told me what was going to happen. I just didn't know what his timing was going to be.
I hung up the phone before the Lord told me the date.
Right.
So
they were like, they were not ambiguous about what they were talking about back around 2020 and even into 2021. Like, we're not talking about water as muddy as the Chattahoochee here. We're talking about like he flat out said it.
Yes.
So we're gonna let's see. We're gonna do predictions for 2025. So I have to think.
You want to do this round robin, or
we'll go with you first, Scott.
All right, I'll make my first one, and I'll throw it to Buzz, give you time to come up with something. My first one is that Chris Carr will finish his term as Attorney General, setting up a contested primary to replace him. So Chris Carr, as we already know, has declared that he's going to run for governor. He in a very hurtful way, waited about 10 or 15 days after the past election to announce that he was running for the next one 2 years away.
And he didn't break the news with us. So.
No, he didn't, which also hurt me. But he has already announced he's running for governor, and there's already been calls from some of his political opponents for him to go ahead and step down. Fonnie Willis has also called for him to step down and stop running. Oh yeah, she did. That being said, the question is, will he serve out his full term? And my prediction is that this time next year, Chris Carr will still be Attorney General in Georgia.
Okay.
Buzz.
Okay. I have a number, but I'm going to go with the one I feel most confident about. Okay. Susie Wiles, the soon-to-be chief of staff in Trump 2.0, she'll be successful in keeping Trump mostly on task. Okay. What I mean is, Trump's second term, at least in this first year, since that's all we're talking about here, will be less chaotic than in the last term. They'll actually get some stuff done.
That is a bold prediction, sir.
Well, considering, okay, like this might be something that we talk about later in the podcast, but it already seems like, I don't know how much off the rails he already is, and some of the things that they're focusing on. And there's this aspect of Trump that he understands how to manipulate the media cycle. And I don't know how much of the stuff that he's putting out there right now is just to keep people's attention on this crazy stuff, like buying Greenland, making Canada. We're going to definitely talk about buying Greenland and Canada becoming the 51st state and renaming
Panama Canal.
Yeah, the Panama Canal, renaming Gulf of Mexico. We're going to talk about that later in the podcast, so stay tuned. But all that stuff right now indicates to me one of two things. One, he really believes that stuff, and that's what he's going after, and that's what he wants to make his first set of legislative priorities. Or secondly, he's just putting it out there to draw attention to that stuff so that there's something else happening. Don't look at my left hand when my right hand is actually doing the work. I mean, is that possible?
Yeah. Sure. I think one thing that leads me to believe this, a big thing that leads me to believe this, his entire cabinet has been named. Whether they all survive, who knows? His entire cabinet has been named for some time now, and that's a way ahead of where he was 4 years ago.
So I think my first prediction, I'm going to make this the second year in a row, there will be a government shutdown.
He didn't learn his lesson the first time. But.
No, and look, I say this because one, I think it's more likely in an off year. Two, with Trump, I think we had 2 or 3 under Trump the first time around. So including that very long one that happened at the end of 2018, because I remember being in the Oval Office right before the shutdown happened, and for the bill signing of First Step, and you could see like he was sticking by his guns on that, and with him being there with the margins very, very narrow in the House, I don't know, man. Like I think that the atmosphere is right for it. That being said, I mean, maybe Johnson goes and pulls a rabbit out of his hat, but does he keep his speakership if that happens? So I mean, I'm not ready to make that prediction yet because I thought he was going to be potentially done. I wasn't sure, but like I thought they would go at least a couple ballots. They only went what?
I mean, you got to tip your hat to him. He pulled a rabbit out of the hat there with.
He did a Ralston, right? He left the machines open while he went and negotiated deals.
Yes,
and then came back and got the votes.
Well, my understanding
seemed to have ignored Thomas Massey completely. So.
Yeah, I mean, which is unfortunate for Massey, but Massey, he's in a position where he has nothing left to lose. I mean, the guy he had a rough 2024. For those who may not know, Thomas Massey's wife very suddenly passed away last year. So, and having talked to him, I know it tore him up. I mean, it would tear anybody up, but my understanding is Norman, Congressman Norman, and I forget the other one, Johnson called Trump. And Trump basically was like, knock it off. That's what got them in line.
Interesting. Okay, so here's my second one. State Senator from Athens, Bill Calzert, will run for Attorney General to replace Chris Carr in a primary.
Interesting.
Bill Calzert is a law and order guy. He's an attorney, and he would be a tough as nails Attorney General. If you're criminal in Georgia, it would harken back to 1980s style law enforcement, I think. That's my second one.
That's just what we need. I was having a good day, Scott.
Look,
you asshole.
You're welcome.
Buzz, you're up.
There's about 30 people waiting for that Senate seat to become open. So that'll be like the biggest primary in Georgia history there. That's not a prediction, by the way, just an observation. All right. So my second one is maybe I'll combine two of them. Michael Thurman, the former labor commissioner and DeKalb County CEO, will be the 2026 Democratic nominee for governor.
Are we going to figure that out in 25? Or he's just going to announce his candidacy?
All right. I'll say he announced. I say he announces. Okay. Fani Willis will run for Attorney General on the Democratic side.
You think so? I think she's toast.
Look, we're here making wild predictions. Why the heck not?
You're not predicting she's the nominee. You're predicting she runs.
She's going to run.
I mean, that's a lower bar. I could see that, maybe.
Because she obviously doesn't, she doesn't want to do the job of actual putting bad guys in jail in Fulton County. So why stick around and do that and go
but
run
even for Democrats,
run for something else?
Could she win that nomination?
She'd have to blame. She'd have to blame everybody. She tried to hold Donald Trump accountable, but all those mean old Republican judges blocked her. I'm not saying it's credible. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying
her YSL in a trial outcome has been ridiculous.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah, there's two things wrong with that. One, I think the Democratic Party is going through a little bit of a reckoning right now, and I think some of that rhetoric might have worked 2-3 years ago. It's not going to work now. And two, the YSL trial. God, she screwed that up. I should
Badly.
say her office screwed that up, but it is her office. Her name is on the door.
But just never underestimate the ability of people to blame others for things that they should be held responsible for. So I'm not saying she's going to win. I'm not sure she's going to be successful. She'll probably face plant, but she ain't sticking around there.
Yeah, Democrats, don't do it. So I'm going to go make a bold prediction that we will not buy Greenland. And Canada will not become the 51st state, but we will do significant damage to our third largest trading or relationship with our third largest trading partner, and then a critical NATO ally. So that is my prediction.
The layup there. All right, so my third one is.
Hey, I went 0 for 5. You guys both got one. Do not call me out for layups here, buddy. Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, we need to put Jason in the paint so he can score more.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's a basketball reference, Jason. I know you guys don't understand basketball, but that's a basketball reference. So.
Okay. Look, I played basketball in like middle school. Not for the school, but like for a recreational team. And I think elementary school and middle school. I know what the paint means, and I'll only watch this shit when Emily forces me to do it during March Madness, and then it's Virginia Tech, not Georgia.
Well, doesn't UGA need to be in the tournament in order for you to root for them?
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Here's my third prediction. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and Insurance Commissioner John King will both run for the United States Senate, and this will take a significant amount of heat off of the Secretary of State's office, which has been directed at it by Burt Jones.
There you go.
On July 1st of 2024, I wrote an article that Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger should put down the idea of running for governor and replace it with one for running for U.S. Senate, not knowing at the time that John King had interest in it, but it looks like John King does now. So I'll go ahead and predict that both of them do. And the benefit that we will see legislatively is that we will see less bills directed to punish the Secretary of State coming especially out of the Senate.
Yeah.
And this is a good thing.
That's a good thing. Yeah. And two good candidates, I think.
So you said John King. Who was the other one?
Brad Raffensperger.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here's one. DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, will actually get some good stuff done.
I would want them to get some good stuff done, but can they is a whole other.
Yeah, it's a whole other. Like, I agree with Scott. I would like for them to get some stuff done. The thing is, in terms of rescissions, like I think we discussed this a few weeks ago, but they want to cut $2 trillion. They don't say, like, over how long, whether it's over a year, over 10 years, over 5 years. They don't really say that. Right. But let's just assume it was a year. I mean, you're cutting the entirety of discretionary spending plus $200 billion
no, that's not
mandatory spending, because you got to pay the net interest. Like, you can't not pay that. So
yeah, and look, Elon buys Twitter, marches in there, and very quickly realizes we can run this thing on 10% of the workforce. He might conclude that that could be true in the federal government. He can't just fire them all. Okay, and neither can Donald Trump, and neither can, I know there's all these theories about he can do blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I'm talking about. The wins might come in areas that they don't expect, but I think we will look back and say, you know what, they actually moved the needle on some stuff that was a good thing.
I mean, we'll move the needle or actually get something done, because if there is a difference between those two things.
All right. Well, I'll say they'll get stuff done in a measurable way that we will look back and say that was good stuff.
Like I said, I hope you're right. I've just thought,
and this will be independent of the price of Dogecoin. It will have nothing to do with Dogecoin or any of that stuff. So.
I go back to when they tried to do this in 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2017, because I was at FreedomWorks at the time, and I was in the old office at Hall of the States. When it failed in the Senate, it failed because Richard Burr voted no. He was the deciding vote on that rescissions package. Yeah. And it was like for some random like it's like some water and conservation fund, I think is what it was. Nobody could understand why. But even looking at that, I went back and looked at this stuff recently, Buzz.
Yeah.
What they did was they cut budget authority. So the budget authority was like $14.7 billion. The actual outlay cut was just over $1 billion. So we're so like we're not talking $1 billion in outlays. That's not even a rounding error. We've probably spent that with me saying the sentence.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I guess I should clarify. The wins may not come in a reduction in reduction in federal spending, but they're called the Department of Government Efficiency. So, can they make the government more efficient? And that might include spending. That might include. If they're smart about it, what you do is you just say, we're going to let government employees retire and not fill those positions. And then the next year, the Congress comes in and says, well, we're not going to fund that position because it's not been filled, and you can make incremental change that way. But I think they can do some stuff to make government more efficient in a way that we can look back and say, yeah.
Or they can stop hiring 87,000 IRS agents.
Yeah. Well, they've reduced that funding down twice. But the thing you're saying, the efficiency side of things, I think also needs to be harped on. In a day where Congressman David Schweiker from Arizona used to talk about this a lot. He's like, we don't need all these stations around the country to measure air quality when you can just attach something to your iPhone to do that for you and send the reports back. Like you don't need all that stuff anymore. Plus the places where they put these things aren't always ideal. They're some places they're high pollution areas, like right in the center of downtown. Like put it somewhere else.
Or they're right next to a hot air conditioning unit, and then goodness, man, look at global warming. Well, get accurate measure. No, look, there's the
reliance on AI too.
Yes, and look. There's such a need now in this country for the government to actually be functional.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming the wildfires on government. We don't know the cause of the wildfires. But there is not a single person in the Los Angeles government who can actually stand up and say, here's what's going on, and here's what we're doing to fix it. And, the firefighters are risking their lives. They're busting their tail, and kudos to them. They're working with, after budget cuts and everything. But the political leadership has just dropped the ball completely, and it's time. That's a symptom of government all over the place. There are good pockets here and there. I'm not saying that, but this is where there's this tremendous opportunity for Trump and Doge and these guys to actually, we're going to make this freaking thing work. Your mail is going to show up in a timely fashion and at a reasonable cost. When XYZ department says they're going to do something, they actually do it. So,
well, one of the things here in Richmond, we've been, not me personally, because I live outside of the city, but the city of Richmond itself has been without water since Monday. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
It's like Atlanta last year then.
Yeah, and like parts of Henrico County, which is borders Richmond to the, I guess, west and north, and then I think somewhere else, one other county. Like my understanding was, I saw this on Reddit, that if you walked out of the airport, the Richmond International Airport, and you needed to use the bathroom, they directed you to porta potties. Yeah, so it's pretty bad. Talk about inefficient
you've probably
government.
seen that stunning video. The mayor of Los Angeles, they're harping on her because she was out of town. Okay, she was at a conference. All right, she came back. I'm not really upset, whether did she come back as timely, I don't know. But they're asking her, why did you cut the budget of the fire department? And, asking her about her response time at getting back to LA to address the problems. She sat there and stared at them and didn't say a word.
That's always a winning strategy.
What the heck?
There was a pretty funny segment someone sent me earlier today, that there was a local Los Angeles-based television station saying that they had not heard from any firefighters that they were out of water, and then they immediately cut to another reporter who was in the field, and she's like, "The firefighters have told me they're out of water," and it's just like, wow, it's not. Yes, Karen Bass, former congresswoman from California, from the LA area, very competent when she was in the House. She has mishandled this, but it doesn't seem like even nobody really knows what's going on, which I think speaks to the broader problems in city government.
Right.
This the same as what's going on in Richmond. Nobody really knows what's going on. And Richmond's
right.
exponentially smaller than Los Angeles County, California. Yes. So I guess it's time for me to make another prediction, Scott.
Yes.
I'm gonna let me try to make something a little try to think of something a little bit more bold. I can't. Nothing is coming to mind.
Well, you don't have to. I mean, you did 5 last year, so we can say you did
Do
3.
4.
Yeah, I got one more.
Georgia will not win the national championship in 2025.
Ooh.
Well, next college playoff would be in 26. So, are you saying that they will make the college
2025
football
2026
playoff
season? How's that? I mean, it'll
Yeah, the 2025 2020. I actually, I'll. That's a tough one. I don't. I'll say we're not going to make the SEC championship in 2025.
Oh, that is bold, considering how die-in-the-wool UGA fan you are.
We've got problems.
Don't we all? Just saying. My last one is an insider baseball one that I want everybody to keep their eye on, and that is that a lawsuit will be filed in 2025, challenging the makeup of the state election board based on a case out of DeKalb County that says that boards cannot have appointees made by unelected people. So right now, the parties each get to appoint a member of the state election board, and there is current case law that has been ruled on by the state Supreme Court that is an unconstitutional arrangement, and that there will be a lawsuit, not by us or any organization that I am connected with whatsoever, that will challenge that makeup, and it will either, one of two things will happen. It will force the legislature to pass legislation reconstituting the state election board with new members under a new model, or they will let the lawsuit go forward and a judge will end up disbanding it and replacing those members himself or herself.
So
there's no chance they undo the precedent.
Not likely, since the precedent was very recent, 2019 case out of DeKalb County.
So I'm thinking back to when I was chairman of the Republican Party in Gwinnett County. I made appointments to the local elections board, but I honestly don't know. I honestly can't remember if was that confirmed by the Board of Commissioners. I don't think it was.
It wasn't, and so
so that would upset all of that too.
And this is one of the reasons why I'm making the prediction, is based upon this DeKalb County case, you see county delegations already moving to a model that are removing the parties from that function. So I don't know if Gwinnett has done it, but here in Cherokee County, our delegation got ahead of the curve and said that our local election board must be actually nominated by the county commissioners who are elected.
Yeah.
And it caused a lot of local consternation amongst the activist class, because at that point they're like, oh, well, we'll only give the Democrats 1, and there's 5 members. And that didn't go over so well with the county commissioners who are elected by the entire county. And they ended up appointing 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans and a sort of a nonpartisan chair from a list of candidates that were recommended by the parties.
Right.
But they're not
that would be the way
to
just fix it.
They're not
on the
required
local level,
to nominate or to confirm those suggestions, but the parties have the ability to make suggestions. And in our case, the county did actually put the members on the board from that list.
Interesting. All right. I have several here. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do one. Well, here. All right, I'll do this one. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard will not be confirmed by the Senate, but Pete Hegseth and Kash Patel will be.
Interesting.
I think Hegseth will. The news around him has really died recently.
It's turned more in his favor.
I mean, well, it turned in his favor in the sense of like nobody's talking about it right now, but all that stuff's going to come back out. By the way, his only hearing is Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. He'll be before Senate Armed Services. By the way, just a quick side note, Doug Collins, his hearing is Tuesday at 9 a.m. inside
go.
Good luck
with Veterans Affairs, the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee. The Tulsi one, I think she has real problems. And the thing is, I'm not sure her problems are worse than RFK's, because there's a pretty steady stream of bad stuff coming out about Gabbard.
Yeah.
And like RFK, like it's like everybody already knows about it. Everybody knows he's crazy. With Gabbard, she's a less known quantity. Same with Kash Patel. He's a less known quantity.
Right.
But I don't think he gets confirmed. I don't think she gets confirmed. But I would put money on the other two. Which Hegseth, I'm ambivalent. I mean, like the stuff that's coming out, the stuff that's come out about him is obviously bad and it's very concerning. But like, I don't know that he's the end of the world. RFK, I'm just frightened about. But Patel, I think Patel's the bigger bad of those four. Patel's the most problematic.
So my thinking is the Senate wants to work with Trump. They want to also, there's enough senators that want to maintain their independence. So there's going to be some folks go down. That happens every administration, right? So toss out the two people who have been Trump supporters for 5 minutes and give Trump the other guys. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
You might be right. I mean,
but we'll see. I guess we'll know in a month.
Langford said today that, or yesterday, I saw the story today. Senator Langford said that if she backtracks on her past opposition to 702, that she might get the votes. But because if she continues to stand behind or by her past opposition to 702, referring to FISA, that she won't get it.
Mm-hmm.
That's paraphrasing what he said. So
interesting.
All right. Do you want to?
I don't have any
this?
more. No, I don't. This because the only one that genuinely scares the pants off of me is RFK Jr. I on record as that. I don't want to beat the dead horse. Because he might chop off its head, strap to his car, and drive down the interstate with it. So I'm going to refrain.
Well, and I understand that, like, you're right. It's kind of like beating a dead horse, but with Patel, I mean, him stating that he wants to go after political enemies, him saying that he wants to go after reporters, it really does potentially harmful things to freedom of speech, to freedom of press. All that stuff is really concerning, and I hope he loses. So that's just my 2 cents, but I'm prepared to be wrong. I don't know that I have another one. Like I'm sitting here racking my brain, listening to you guys talk, and like I.
How about this, Jason? You and I make a prediction on the Tech Georgia game this year. Who wins?
Oh, we're going to beat you guys.
Nah, Tech's going to beat Georgia.
Georgia will beat Tech.
Right, and that I'm going to cowboy this and say we're going to pay some bills.
Peach Pundit has an anonymous Patreon who would like to invite you to learn more about the Alzheimer's Association. The Alzheimer's Association leads the way to end Alzheimer's and all other dementia by accelerating global research, driving risk reduction and early detection, and maximizing quality care and support. No one should fight Alzheimer's alone. With your help, no one will. Learn more on their website, alz.org.
Conservatives Concerned is a network of political and social conservatives who question the alignment of capital punishment with conservative principles and values. Our programs include educating conservatives about the failed death penalty system and mobilizing them to bring about its end. We come to this issue for a variety of reasons. Some believe that small government and the death penalty don't go together, especially when we compare the high costs of capital punishment to life without possibility of release. Some don't trust the state to get it right. We already know that some innocent people have been sentenced to death, and for others, it may already be too late. Some believe that the death penalty contradicts our values about protecting life. Find out more at conservativesconcerned.org.
So the Georgia Republican Party will soon, if not, I don't think they've already done this, but they may vote on a resolution to kick Jeff Duncan out of the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah. This passed.
Passed. Okay.
Unanimously.
Well, yeah. Did it really? We'll talk about it.
But
I mean, did it pass unanimously is a question.
Reading some of Jeff Duncan's comments, he didn't seem too concerned. about it. And, given the state of the Republican Party here down in Georgia, I don't blame him for not being concerned about it. But I have multiple questions. One, about enforcement of this. Two, are you going to stop him from voting in Republican primaries? Like, is that part of this? Like, how do you? Because that's a freedom of speech, freedom of association issue, and you're also talking about taxpayer-funded primaries, so you're getting a subsidy from the state to run your elections, so your primary elections. And then finally, why should we be concerned about this? So, Scott, do you have the answers to my questions?
I have answers to some of them, and it starts with process and due process. The Republican Party is the party of the Constitution, the rule of law, following the process. Look, let's deal with the elephant in the room right away. Pun intended. Jeff Duncan endorsed Kamala Harris. That is not a Republican thing to do. It is, I think, a reasonable conclusion to understand that Jeff Duncan is not really a Republican if he's willing to do that. I think that's a reasonable position. And honestly, I can't defend Jeff's actions whatsoever, and that's not really what this is about. There will be those that take what we're about to say, what I'm about to say in this post that Jason Shepard and I are working on together in a collaboration. It will be out sometime this weekend, where we talk about specifically the reasons you should be concerned if you are a due processing, rule of law type of activist. Because the way this went down, first of all, the executive committee, it's a very small group of people. It's not the full state committee. It was just the executive committee were the only ones who voted. They did not vote in a meeting. They voted via email. This is the information that's given to us by prominently placed Republican activists who were in the room. There was no discussion. Jeff Duncan was not given an opportunity to defend himself. And again, we all saw what he did, right? But in our country, our party should emulate our society. And what they did is if somebody commits a murder and we have video evidence and 25 eyewitnesses on the street in broad daylight, we don't drag them straight to the electric chair, the gas chamber, or to the gallows. They go to jail. They get their day in court. When they are found guilty by a jury of their peers, then there is some consequences, punishment, and ultimately that is carried out. That didn't happen here. And that's why you should be concerned. Because what happened was the chairman wrote a letter to Jeff saying, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't call yourself a Republican anymore. Stop doing that. In the resolution also, they included demonstrably false claims.
Yeah.
One of the claims is that Jeff referred to himself as a graduate from Georgia Tech. I was able to find a 2019 commencement speech from then Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, where he made a joke starting out that this was only the second graduation ceremony he's ever attended at Georgia Tech, and the first one was for his wife. And then he looked out at his parents and said, Mom and Dad, I know you always wanted to come see me at a commencement ceremony at Georgia Tech. I'm sorry that this is the one you had to see instead of me graduating from here. And he's always been very open that he didn't graduate from Georgia Tech. But the resolution says that he lied and implied that he did graduate. No, he didn't. He's never done that. There's not a single instance of that. Another false allegation in there is that he presented himself as a Major League Baseball player. I think everybody at this point understands that he was a minor league pitcher in the Miami Marlins / Florida Marlins minor league system, and that he made it all the way to AAA, one step below. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't expect David Schaefer and Josh McCoon to ever know what it's like to be in any type of athletic event whatsoever. Those two dudes together, maybe they could sumo wrestle each other, but they're not going to play professional baseball. Maybe they don't understand how the minor leagues work. And when he was saying I was in the Miami Marlins organization, that he was a professional baseball player. He got paid to play baseball. He was not a Major League Baseball player.
Scott is cooking right now.
Well, Scott, if I could just interrupt, those two things are related because the reason he didn't graduate from Georgia Tech is because he entered the draft and was drafted by the Marlins organization,
right,
to play in their minor league system.
So in baseball, there is no draft to enter. The teams claim you whether or not you want to be claimed in the draft. So it's not like going into the NBA draft or declaring for the NFL draft.
And I think you have, if I'm not mistaken, you have two opportunities. One right out of high school.
Yep.
And one in your third year in university. right?
No, you can go at any time. You can be drafted as a freshman out of college. If the team is willing to take the risks, this is part of the work a front office does in qualifying their draft picks and when they vet their draft picks. Does this guy even want to play for us? If we draft him, are we wasting a draft pick? And Jeff was a fairly high round draft pick. He wasn't, first, second, third round, but he was a legitimate.
He was on a team that went to the College World Series. Okay.
Yeah, he played with Jason Varitek.
Yeah. Nomar Garcia-Parra.
Yeah.
Jay Payton. That was a loaded team. So yeah,
it was a loaded team. Maybe Mark Teixeira might have. I don't know. He came after.
He came after that.
So at any rate, the Georgia Tech has been an ACC powerhouse in baseball during that whole time, and they put together some tremendous teams. And Jeff was part of that era of Georgia Tech baseball. But he didn't graduate. He didn't say he did. Jeff has run successful businesses. They attack him on this stuff, but there's a whole bunch of other allegations that we can't verify whether or not it was real or if it was true. And this resolution reads like fan service for the activist class. And one prominent Republican activist told me, and I'm quoting here, the only good thing that came out of this resolution is that David Schaefer got a good laugh for about 30 minutes. And that was from somebody that was in the room.
Reading through it was like I was watching a David Schaefer commercial, because these are the kinds of things that David Schaefer was throwing out when he was running against Jeff Duncan when they were going against each other for lieutenant governor.
Right. And we know that Josh McCoon and David Schaefer are best friends. Like, they are very, very close. David Schaefer was in Josh McCoon's wedding. We know they're close. So the reality, though, is this is why you should be concerned. Okay. Yes, Jeff Duncan endorsed Kamala Harris. There should be consequences for that. But the party made up a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
Things that were demonstrably false. And they're prosecuting him without due process. They never gave him a chance to answer any of these allegations. And they've presented them as fact to the world. This is now the Republican Party of Georgia's official stance on Jeff Duncan, is that these are the reasons why he needed to be kicked out.
And look, in fairness,
you could have just stopped at the Harris endorsement.
In fairness to Jeff, he never said, I speak on behalf of the Republican Party.
No.
I am a Republican Party official. He always, this was him as an individual doing this. And Scott, I agree. I don't agree with Jeff's stance on that. I couldn't go there with him. Okay?
No, absolutely not.
But
no, under no circumstances was I going to vote or endorse or press the button for Kamala Harris. It simply wasn't going to happen. As much as I, didn't love the candidacy of Donald Trump. But so Jeff has brought this on himself in a large way. But if you're going to go through this process and you're the party of the rule of law and following the rules as they're written, you didn't follow your own rules. There was no state committee vote. There was no meeting. There was no opportunity to contest anything. And instead, you took the guy straight from the street to the gallows. And that's what you did. And that's a concern that we should all feel, especially since they're making stuff up in their allegations.
This is comically bad. Like, just reading through this, it's petty. It's comically stupid.
Personal.
Exceedingly personal. The nominations of Jeff Duncan as a Republican candidate for Georgia House of Representatives are hereby expunged. The nomination for Lieutenant Governor is hereby expunged. Okay, he's still served. Like, what are you doing?
That's Soviet style.
Yeah,
unpersoning, right?
This is Stalin with that dude in the picture that's shown. Like I didn't know they had,
right?
Yeah, I didn't know they had Photoshop in the 30s. But like, you're taking him out of the picture. This is God. Go touch some grass. Like,
Not only
the level of immaturity displayed in this resolution is just astounding. You're better.
This is what they chose to spend time on, though. This is what they chose to spend time on. There is a contested election right now in Georgia for State House, right? Matt Jackson versus a Republican. That's been thrown into the courts because there's been research to find that there were people. The AJC did research on this. We talked about it in our last podcast, where and instead of spending time, energy, and money trying to win that case or support that candidate, this is what they decided to do when it was very clear to me that Jeff's already quit the Republican Party. This was like the most unnecessary thing ever. But if Jeff does decide to show up at the next mass precinct meetings and that call includes saying open to anyone, then Jeff is anyone. And so they're going to change the language around the call now. And who gets to be the arbiter on the spot on the day of the mass precinct meetings on who's a Republican and who's not? This is Pandora's box, my friend.
And the demanding that he no longer call himself a Republican, or, in the party's case, according to the article from The Hill, the party has also said that media should refer to Jeff Duncan as expelled Republican or ousted Republican when you go to him for quotes trashing President Trump of the Republican Party.
Well, that's it. That's what I have to say about it.
So the only thing I'll add that I haven't already said is what was bizarre to me about all of this, they'd already done this. Maybe they didn't take a vote. And Scott, what you're saying tonight is they may not have taken a vote with this either, a proper vote. But this issue, they'd already done this. Josh McCoon did this prior to the election, right?
Yeah, he sent a letter in August.
Yeah,
as chairman.
Why did they decide now here in January of 2025 that this needed to be done again? It's like dragging the corpse out and the dead corpse and beating it again
to make David Schaefer feel good.
Well, in other news, Reese Adler, formerly known as Jason Spencer, has written a new book. You guys may remember Jason Spencer. He was in the Georgia House of Representatives for a number of years, and then had some misfortune by appearing on a show hosted by Sacha Baron Cohen. Of course, it wasn't billed that way when he appeared on that show, but Jason Spencer now goes by the name of Reese Adler, and he apparently has a book coming out.
I can't wait for it. So
you can buy it.
I absolutely 100% am going to buy this book. 100%. I have a collection of books published by people that I know personally, regardless of what they write. The only one I didn't buy was Carla Drenner's book because it was a textbook and it was like almost $400.
Come on, she could hook you up. Surely she could hook you up. Give you
asked her to, and
the seatmate discount, right?
She gave me the link to buy it, and that was when I decided not to. Basically, the book is called Citizen Legislator: An Insider Account of Pathological Politics in the Peach State. And he has said that he is excited to have his opportunity to share his side of the story. And I cannot wait for it. I'll totally be buying this the moment it's available on Amazon or wherever else I can get it.
Well, I have searched for it and not been able to find it on Amazon. Buzz, are you going to buy it?
Sure.
So simple. Sure.
Look, Jason and I, now Reese, I always got along with him. We worked together. I co-sponsored legislation. I forget what it was called, but it was the one that extended the statute of limitations on
the Hidden Predator Act.
Hidden Predator Act. Yes.
Yeah.
And folks, might not realize that that got the ball going. That started the avalanche that ended up with the massive scandal in U.S. gymnastics of terrible sexual abuse against thousands, maybe hundreds at least, of young women, and some of our most famous female gymnasts and most decorated female gymnasts in U.S. history. That bill got the ball going because it was a case in Georgia that started it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
he was an advocate for people who had been sexually abused as children and never received justice.
Yeah.
And without Reese Adler, who was then State Representative Jason Spencer, that bill does not pass. Doesn't even get introduced without him.
And we don't need to go into it here, but I'm sad that he and his wife are no longer together, and
they had changed his name.
Yeah. You know? I felt really terrible for him when the stuff with Sacha Baron Cohen came out. That was very sad and broke my heart because I like Jason. I always got along with him great and well, and I look forward to reading the book, seeing what he says.
So the one of the first bills passed out of the House of Representatives is moving pretty quickly through the Senate. That is the Laken Riley Act. For folks who may not remember, Laken Riley was the college student who, I can't remember what school she went to, but she was killed on the campus of the University of Georgia by an individual who had entered the country illegally. He has been prosecuted and sent to prison for life without possibility of parole. He had interactions with law enforcement, including Athens, Clarke County, for, I think it was shoplifting, if memory serves. But was released. But under the Laken Riley Act, which passed the House pretty pretty large margin earlier this week, and I had the vote, and I'm trying to pull it back up. There it is. 264 to 159. It includes 48 Democrats who voted for it. It's HR 29. This bill is going to move. I mean, it's already passed one hurdle in the Senate, which was the cloture motion on the motion to proceed, and only 9 Democrats voted against it. So that doesn't mean anything yet, but I can go into why that may not mean anything. But I want to get your initial thoughts on this. Buzz, I'm going to start with you first.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing. I think part of why you saw it with such bipartisan support is that it shouldn't be controversial that we say folks who are in this country illegally, set that issue aside. If they commit other crimes while here in the United States, then we have no obligation as the United States to let them stay here any longer. And this reminds me of the program that used to be in place in a lot of sheriff's departments, including Gwinnett County, that back then it was known as the 287G program, in that when a person was arrested in Gwinnett County, they checked back when Butch Conway was our sheriff, they checked the person's legal status, and then they called, if they were here legally, they called up ICE and said, hey, we got one for you. And the deportation proceedings started. That shouldn't be controversial. And so kudos to Congressman Collins for drafting this and getting it passed out of the House. And just Jason, you mentioned Laken Riley was a nursing student at Augusta University, the right. Athens campus, which is part of the not officially part of the University of Georgia, but it's the Athens campus of Augusta University. The nursing
thanks
program.
For reminding me of that. I couldn't remember the name of the university. So, Scott, under the Laken Riley Act, localities must detain an individual who is unlawfully present in the United States or did not possess the necessary documents when applying for admission and has been charged with, arrested for, convicted of, or admits to having committed acts that constitute the essential elements of burglary, theft, larceny, or shoplifting. The bill also authorizes state governments to sue for injunctive relief over certain immigration-related decisions or alleged failures by the federal government if the decision or failure caused the state or its residents harm. That includes financial harm of more than $100. So there's a list of criteria that the state government could sue over that I'm not going to get into. But this, I think the general consensus amongst Republicans in Washington, D.C., this is not all, but this is many or most, is they don't care about deporting people who are peaceful so much as they care about getting rid of or ensuring that people who are illegal in the country illegally, who are violent criminals or who commit crimes, ensuring that they no longer stay in the United States.
I think it signals that that's the priority. I still think that a large number of Republicans want to see every illegal immigrant deported and sent back home. But that said, this is a very reasonable measure, basically saying the least desirable elements of this group of people are going to be prioritized and be sent back, or potentially punished and then sent back, depending on if they're convicted or not. But imagine, I don't know that there's a better name for a bill that's named after a person. Traditionally, when you name a bill after a person, I look at it a little skeptically, like, what are we really trying to do? When I was in the legislature, it was an indicator that I needed to dig into the details. But as you've presented it here, Jason, is there a bill that is more appropriately named the Laken Riley Act? Because this guy that killed her, had this been law, would have prevented her death. Because he had been arrested. He had been stopped in New York, but he was arrested in the city of Athens for that exact crime, theft, and he was let go. And it ultimately led to him having the opportunity to murder her in broad daylight.
So there's a really interesting story out of, and I want everybody to consider the source here. This is coming from MSNBC. And I'm sorry if I sound weird. I've been recovering from a horrible cold. So the title of this article is "The House GOP's First Bill of 2025 Could Enable a Ken Paxton Power Grab." And what it says is, if the Senate passes the Laken Riley Act this week, the answer might not be Congress or the president. The bill already passed in the House would hand state attorneys general, like Ken Paxton in Texas, veto power over large swaths of federal immigration policy. Under a provision of the bill that has gotten little attention, federal courts in places like Texas and Louisiana can hear lawsuits seeking to impose sweeping bans on all visas from countries such as India and China. State officials could also see court orders forcing the government to deport a specific individual without the sign-off of the ICE officer. Now, I am not super familiar with this bill because I'm not working on it. It is not a very lengthy bill. I have not seen that. There are some, you talk about or I mentioned the state private right of action to sue federal officials. I don't see anything in here that suggests that it gives Texas or Louisiana or any other state large authority over what is traditionally in the purview of Congress. So I think that might be, let me put it another way. If Dick Durbin votes for cloture on the motion to proceed on this bill, and Dick Durbin being probably one of the biggest, most well-known advocates for immigration reform in the United States Senate, I don't know that I'm that concerned about it. Right. And Dick Durbin voted for it when the Senate voted for cloture on the motion to proceed today. Now, he may have voted for that for a host of other reasons. I think one of the reasons so many Democrats voted for it, again, only 9 Democrats voted against it. That's Cory Booker, Mazie Hirono, Andy Kim, Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, Bernie Sanders, Brian Schatz, Tina Smith, and Elizabeth Warren. Those are the 9. But there were 6 senators who didn't vote. But if you go look at the vote sheet, the only vote they've taken this year, you could see it yourself. Every other Democrat voted for it, including Chuck Schumer. So, they may have voted for it hoping that they'd get a chance to offer amendments. Maybe that's the case. And that's really going to depend on Senate Majority Leader John Thune. There's a term, we call it filling the tree. If Thune allows an open process, which means he doesn't fill the amendment tree, then I think Democrats will, by and large, they get a chance to offer amendments. They get a chance to have their voice heard, to have their constituents represented on the floor of the United States Senate. I think that speaks well for the Senate. It speaks well for process. I think that should happen. And if they lose, they lose. But even if that doesn't happen, they only need 7, assuming every Republican's there and going to vote for it. And do the 7 votes exist? I think John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock vote yes, because they have to.
Yeah. I think Ossoff has already said, or his office has said he would. I don't know that Warnock has said yay or nay, but yeah.
I think Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego. Ruben Gallego voted for this when he was in the House.
Yeah.
So that's 4. You need 3 more. Fetterman's been, a wild one to watch.
I don't know why I like him so much. It hurts me to say I like a Democratic senator, but gosh, I like me some John Fetterman.
Cortez Masto from Nevada, and Jackie Rosen, both of whom survived very tight elections. So you got to think they're probably going to vote for it. So that's 6. The potential opposition begins to narrow. Gary Peters, who's in cycle and from Michigan, right? I think he said he's going to vote for it. So that's 7. So, and only one Republican didn't vote today, and that was Lisa Murkowski. I rather think she's probably going to vote for it.
Yeah. I don't see why she wouldn't, be honest.
So, I'm looking at this and going, the writing's on the wall here. This thing's got to pass.
Yeah.
I do think Thune should allow amendments. I hope he does. He'll set the amendment threshold at 60 votes, which has been routine, because it cuts down the need for cloture votes. Yeah, but this thing's going to pass regardless of what Thune does.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Cool.
Yeah. So
look at Congress getting stuff done.
Well, I mean, when they released their bills for the first couple weeks of the session, there were 10 of them, and I remember looking at them going, a couple of these could pass. So there's this one, there's the Halt Fentanyl Act, which the Halt Fentanyl Act I do have issues with. That's a bad bill. Because of the way it handles, it's a one-size-fits-all approach. Not every fentanyl-related substance is toxic. Some actually may be helpful. And there's no off-ramp in that bill, which I have a real problem with. But that's neither here nor there, and not what you guys pay me for. Not that you pay me anything. So Donald Trump wants to change the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And Marjorie Taylor Greene wants to carry that bill. This is Buzz is laughing his arse off. So I saw a funny meme today, and I actually posted this on Blue Sky. It was, and I said I can't get behind the Gulf of America thing, but I could get behind this, and it's the Gulf of Buc-ee's. And it includes the Nugget Bay around the Yucatan Peninsula and the Jerky Channel between the Yucatan Peninsula and Cuba. I could 100% get on board with the Gulf of Buc-ee's. I also saw another meme that was actually quite funny. The Gulf of making eggs cheaper, because that's not what this is doing. No, it's making eggs cheaper. It's a huge distraction, and will it matter? Like, we might call it the Gulf of America, which I'm sure we could pass something that says that. And let me be clear here, this thing's not going anywhere. But it takes other countries recognizing it to really have any force, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, I have some advice for you. Instead of you carrying the bill, head on over to Rich McCormick's office and have him do it for you, because then it will pass.
Like that, like the other.
Yes, yeah. That's all. That's the only thing I have to say about it. Give it to Rich McCormick so it'll actually pass.
This is just. I hate everything. I hate everyone.
Do they? I don't know. What's the Jason? What's the congressional equivalent of needing to obtain a fiscal note? Because this would be a bill, if it's introduced in Georgia, we would say, what's the fiscal note? How many people are going to have to reprint all kind of stuff to change the name from Gulf of Mexico to Gulf of America?
So it would be a CBO score, and that is if a bill is coming to the floor under a special rule, a CBO score is typically required. Unless the Rules Committee waives it. If they do it under suspension of the rules, a CBO score isn't needed, but usually is always included. The thing is, this would not come to the floor under suspension.
If it makes it that far.
This is going to have a private, presumably this is going to have a private sector mandate, and it's just, I don't know why we're talking about it even more than we already have, but.
I think it's just a distraction. I like this seriously. Look at my shiny hand over here. Don't ignore what's happening with the other hand. This and the next topic.
Yeah. Let me remind you that you control the agenda. So Trump says he wants to make Canada the 51st state. Which
54-40 or fight. Let's go.
So this is really fascinating, because Canada is about to have probably a historic election where the Liberal Party is going to be relegated to like the third largest in the country. Yeah. Like Bloc Quebec is going to have a larger share of votes in the Canadian Parliament than the Liberal Party. Justin Trudeau, I pay very little attention to like Canadian politics. I'm very fascinated by British politics. But I'm also fascinated by the rise of AfD in Germany, which scares the crap out of me. But I didn't realize how much people hated Justin Trudeau. But the Conservative Party, like, I can't pronounce the dude's last name. Pierre is his first name. Like, the guy who's going to be the new prime minister from the Conservative Party. I don't know if anybody's taken a chance to like look at his positions. I don't think the guy supports same-sex marriage. He supports the national health system. Like he's not like, he's conservative for Canada, but like if he were to come over to the United States, you Republicans would blame him or brand him as another Jeff Duncan and probably excommunicate him.
Yeah, Jeff Duncan didn't switch on all those things, right? So he's still
right. I haven't looked to see where this guy is on this stuff, but I can't imagine he's going to be in favor of it. Like, Canadians are pretty proud.
Is he the one? Is he the guy who blasted back, said no, we will never, ever? But see, Jason, you raised a point that this is why, this supports Scott's theory that this is all LOL, nothing matters. Because if you want to create a permanent Democratic majority in the United States, merge with Canada.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's the political aspect of that is the non-starter of it.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's a serious proposal. I know the media has said Donald Trump has doubled down on it. Donald Trump has said that he would use market pressure or economic pressure.
Economic force is what he said.
Economic force, right? He would use, the force
Benjamin
of trade.
Franklin tried this when we first started, first picked our fight with the British in
1820s.
Yeah.
That was the 54-40 or fight slogan came from. That's the parallel. They wanted it. So Oregon would have gone almost to Alaska.
Yeah.
Had that been what ended up happening, but that,
well, and also
we didn't win that war.
We tried to get the Franklin went on a mission to try to get went up to our troops crossed into what became Canada, into Montreal, I believe. Captured a building and said, "Hey, why don't you guys join us in the fight against the British?" And they said, "No, thanks." So they had a chance and they chose not to. So, yeah, no, thank you, Exactly.
Yeah, look.
Sorry.
If
but
you're
no
a history
thanks.
nerd like me, go look up the period of American history called Manifest Destiny. Look up the slogan 54-40 or fight, and you'll learn a lot about why the Canadian-United States border is exactly where it is today.
Yeah.
And this is not something new to American history. This has been considered in the past, as well as buying Greenland or annexing Greenland or something.
So one thing I've seen this pop up on Reddit, and it's like, yeah, you're going to ask the Canadians are going to give up the national health system, their publicly financed healthcare system, to come to the United States, where it's I mean, let's be honest here. I mean, about half of our system is publicly financed too. It's called Medicare, Medicaid. But like, that's not going to happen. There is still a considerable amount of private insurance in the Canadian health system. There's actually, that's true of most single payer systems, where there is a considerable amount of private insurance involvement. But still, I mean, you're talking about where the Conservative Party, the leader of the Conservative Party, is talking about protecting the NHS. This ain't gonna happen.
No.
So, and speaking of things that aren't going to happen, Denmark's selling Greenland to us. Greenland, which has been fighting for autonomy, wants to be an independent country. And look, it's the largest island in the world, but the population's around 50-something thousand. We're talking about something that's, I don't know, how big is maybe twice the size of Covington, Georgia in terms of population. But Trump has said, economic force and potentially like military force to get possession of Greenland if Denmark won't sell it to us. And reading some little bit of history, like we've tried this before. We tried this back in the 40s or 50s or something like that. I think Truman tried. And we were not successful. But we
bought the U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark in the 20th century.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Well, there's a precedent.
With what money? I mean, with what money are we going to do? Are we going to do this? We're broke. Yeah.
Like the valuation of Greenland. Also, I looked this up too. The valuation of Greenland is like, there's a huge range. Like it's like, oh yeah, a few hundred $1 million to like $1.5 trillion. And the reason is because of their rare earth minerals.
Right.
Which is I think the reason why Trump wants it so bad. And I'll go over here and say, like, we've also have been cut off from China and its rare earth minerals, which goes again to Frederick Bastiat. If soldiers don't cross, or if goods don't cross borders, soldiers will.
Yeah.
So, and this is the stupidity of protectionism, but that's...
So here are a couple of things, right? If I remember my history appropriately, the last time the United States actually went and took property or land from somebody in sort of a colonial or empirical way was the Philippines in like the 1890s, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, somebody can correct me on that. Some other, but
that was I think that was Spanish-American War related, though.
And we took it from Spain, right? Yeah. And if I am remembering my history, but since then a lot has happened, right? There's international law really frowns upon military invasions to take away. What does NATO do in that instance, right? There are all kinds of other variables that a serious person would stop and say, we don't want to do a military invasion. The diplomatic approach, it's not unprecedented to see the United States buy something. They can make it a commonwealth like they do with Puerto Rico or Guam but there are also military advantages to having military bases there. And that's another route that could potentially be explored. But I don't know why you're not being sworn in yet. Again, I come back to look at my right hand. What's the left hand doing? Is this just a distraction to create headlines and suck the oxygen out of something else that's happened?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was listening this morning to the Commentary Magazine podcast. They were talking about the fires in L.A. And John Podhoretz said, over the weekend, he said, I'll go to CNN because they've got the largest group of reporters. I'm sure there's already a CNN person on the ground there in L.A. who can give us firsthand account of what's happening. They were all talking about Greenland. So we'll flip over to MSNBC, maybe with the power of NBC News. They were all talking about Greenland. Mm-hmm. So whether Trump intends it to be a distraction, it is absolutely, the media is doing exactly what they did during Trump's first episode, which was anytime he says something crazy, they go berserk. And they spend countless hours on cable news and thousands of gallons of ink being spilled to talk about stuff that's never going to happen. So he jerks the media around left and right, and they play right into it. So
allow me to push back, because I don't think the Canada thing. Trump is going to impose tariffs on Canada. He's already said that 25%, which is going to, and they're going to retaliate. It's going to hurt both sides. It's going to be a disaster. It's the cost of gas is going to go up because we get a significant amount of gas or oil from Canada. I do think the Greenland thing is real. And the reason I think the Greenland thing is real, because if you read, Scott, you did this when you sent over the story to us, just reading the CNN story on this, Buzz, I have watched CNN cover the wildfires extensively, like Anderson Cooper's out there.
Well, this was the early moments of the wildfire. Okay, this is not, but but it was far enough into it where you would expect that they would be out there talking about it. So,
but just reading here, I mean, like this. A lot of this makes sense because China has tried to invest in Greenland. The United States managed to pressure Greenland out of allowing China to build 3 small airports in Greenland. Greenland is a source of rare earth minerals. So China has invested billions in countries across the world, including Africa, where there's a lot of rare earth minerals. This is, I'm sure Trump, and my understanding is it was Tom Cotton. God, I hate him. It was Tom Cotton who put this on Trump's radar during his first term, which is why Trump talked about it during his first term. Mm-hmm. So I actually think this one is real. I don't think so, but successful.
Make better. If you don't want China there, offer them better deals. I mean, Trump's a big deal maker. Make better deals with them.
Yeah, I mean, you need to have American investment or do something to encourage American investment in Greenland, rather than trying to, really say stupid stuff. I mean, this is going to do damage to. I think Scott, you mentioned NATO. This is going to do damage to with our relationship with our NATO allies, because they're already just wondering, like, what are you doing? Yeah. But anyway, one thing before we go. Do want to say rest in peace to Jimmy Carter. He passed away since we were last on. And I think personally, I think Jimmy Carter gets a bad rap because of the things he had to deal with coming out of the Nixon and Ford administrations. The Nixon shock, especially the last vestige of the gold standard. We were coming off of that thanks to Nixon, and it caused economic chaos and caused malaise, as has come to be known even though Carter never actually said those words. That's what that speech is known as. But Carter gets a bad rap. He did a lot of good things. He was actually, deregulatory. The reason you can brew home beer, the reason there are so many breweries in Georgia, is because of Jimmy Carter.
No, I'm taking credit for that. No. Buzz voted against it, but I voted for that legislation.
I'm talking about what Carter did to pave the way for you to be able to do that.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So,
airline deregulation too, right?
Airline deregulation, which some people are pissed about. But rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. I don't know if you guys want to add anything, but we're pretty much done for the night. If you guys don't want to add anything.
No, the only thing I want to add is when somebody has just recently passed away, and we're speaking on the day that he was lying in the rotunda of the Capitol, and there was a service for him there.
Mm-hmm.
Former president showed up, and bottom line is, it's complex. There's good and bad.
Yeah.
And right now we're going to talk about good because he's recently passed away. And as far as a humanitarian goes, his work with Habitat Humanity is on question there. But there are aspects to his presidency, and there's aspects to his life after his presidency as a former president that are worth scrutinizing and criticizing. We're not going to do that today, but it is more complex than one-sided. And at this point in time, a lot of commentators are just talking about the good, but there's plenty of bad there too. Yeah, he was human, and he made mistakes, and he put the United States in some really awkward positions internationally in his post-presidential life that I think need to be discussed by the historians when his full legacy is debated and written into the annals of American history.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that debate has he left office in 1980. That debate has gone on for a long time. The evaluation of his presidency has gone on for a long time, and but like Jason said, my prayers are with the family. Scott and I served with Jason Carter, who was in the Senate, and I got to know him a little bit. Good guy, and so my heart goes out to the family who lost their grandfather, who was a president of the United States.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we are brought to you by our people who rock. These are the people who reach into their pocket and voluntarily every single month just throw us a few dollars to keep this thing going. For as little as $5 a month, you can voluntarily contribute and help us keep this thing going. The people who rock, head over to patreon.com/peachpundit and sign up. You join them, and we'll tell you who they are, just like we're telling them right now. And then there are friends at Americans for Prosperity and Tony West, Ari Schaefer, Benjamin Hurst, Bill Werkheiser, Bo Brannon, Brett Harrell, Colin Martin, Jeff Cobble, Hank Burnham, James Hall, John Vestal, Mike Buchert, Reed Powell, Robert Lee, and our friends at Lee6 Media, who bring you that cute little ad about the Golden Retriever Rescue of Atlanta. Ron Daniels, Ryan Graham, Ryan Purvis, Shannon Ferguson, Stuart Wilkinson, and our anonymous Patreon. Thank you all for listening. Jason Pye creates all the music you hear here. Peach Pundit is Jason Pye, myself, Scot Turner, and Buzz Brockway. It's published and produced by me, Scot Turner. Thank you again. We'll catch you next time.